I'll just.
He said Michael is coming.
He is coming, yeah. Maybe got second credit, or at least I thought.
To start January 21st. So
Welcome to the
it has to be the original.
December meeting. Happy holidays. Can I say Merry Christmas? I'm so tired of not being able to say Merry Christmas. You can say whatever you celebrate to me and I'll be fine with it. Glad you're all here. We have a pretty straightforward agenda tonight. We're missing Mary Jane, who is ailing. And Debbie has a school board meeting that she is chairing, though she said she'd rather be here because apparently it's a very contentious meeting. So we all know about that, but she's got to do what she's got to do. First business is to approve the October 31st, 2019 meeting minutes. Have you all had a chance to review?
There was one typo in there, and I'm not going to worry about it.
Okay. Any other comments on those minutes? I will be abstaining from the vote as I was not present that evening. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next business is the November 8th, 12 minutes long. I saw that this meeting was. I love it. I thought I had the record, but apparently not.
Yeah, we beat you on that one.
I guess you did. Well, only one agenda item, so we have to
Right.
clarify.
Yeah, it was quick.
So,
Two of us drove 65 miles just in case you know.
And I don't mean to make light of it. I do appreciate that. I was at our son's rehearsal dinner that night, so it seemed like.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, that just had.
No, you're right. I totally appreciate you guys getting this done. That's why we have the land. Just fell in a bad spot for me.
Yes.
So if there's no other discussion on those November 8th minutes, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I will also abstain from this. Second, Laura, was that you?
Yes.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion's carry. Treasurer's report.
Okay.
Michael?
Should be just as quick unless there's something in there someone's seen. Obviously, these 2 months, there's not a lot of income, and we still have expenses going out. In October, $2,991 income, $41,276 in expenses. I can do both of these at the same time, or I'll do them one at a time, whatever pleases the board.
I'm all for efficiency.
Yeah.
Is that all right with everybody else?
For November, there was $1,386 in income, $21,935. Obviously, payroll, et cetera. We had insurance coming out in October, and that would be the bulk of some of the expenses. So I would entertain a motion for the report of claims for the October and November financials.
Just
I'll
a
make-
quick comment. I noticed that in the middle column, there were more descriptors than I've noticed in the past, and that sure helps. If we could.
We've been
do
working on that. Doesn't it? It makes it easier.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
sort of like, what was this for? And then you know.
Oh, yeah, that's.
So I would encourage you guys to, plug in that column.
I will give Mike a lot of credit for helping to get that more
Yeah.
fleshed out. Because
Thank
when
you.
I started a decade ago, I really struggled to figure out what
Yeah.
this was, and you can't always tell by a check.
Right.
So, good job, Mike.
Oh, thank you, Les. Okay.
So, Mike, I'll make that motion if there's no further discussion to approve the report of claims for both October and November 2019.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I think I also have to abstain on that, which I did.
Okay, all right.
Noted. I abstained on that as well, since I was not present in either.
Okay, cumulative maintenance fund transfer to certificate of deposit. Let me get to that location. Just take me a second here. Okay. As we do every year, we collect $5,000 in our budget, and then we transfer it to a cumulative maintenance fund CD that I don't have. It's line item 6610 going into our cumulative maintenance fund. So if everybody's okay with that, I'll entertain a motion to transfer that money into our cumulative maintenance fund CD.
I motion that we move it to the.
Thank you, Laura.
I'll second that.
Okay, Pam. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. This next one Okay, we're gonna renew a CD. This is renewal of CD number 3710322722. The dollar amount is $5,213.49. It's maturing January 10th, 2020. So we just didn't find any need for the money. We've already cashed one of the CDs in. So if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to renew CD 3710322722.
Motion to renew?
Thank you, Laura. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mike.
Okay, Pam?
For less.
Okay. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of renewing the CD signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Okay, and my last one here is the one that's going to be a little tricky, and I'll explain why. Okay, so when we approved the payment of the bond last year, Debbie was not present at that meeting, but she asked me to tell the board, ask the board, to make sure that that money went for the sediment mitigation program. I hope we all remember that.
Yep.
So with that, line item 6662, which is the $67,000 repayment, is going to go to the sediment management program. However, we're going to use it to pay for the engineering. Okay? So when we balance the books at the end of the year, that money is going to pay for the sediment management program, but it's paying for the engineering costs, sediment transport study, etc. So if there's no more questions, I will entertain a motion to transfer funds from 6662 to 6750.
So moved.
Thank you, Michael.
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, motion moved, made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and motion carries. And, did I lose my spot? No,
You're good.
manager's report.
That
Madam Chair?
lightning fast, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
That brings us to the manager's report. I did neglect to mention that Adam is out of the country, and Alex is stepping up nicely to manage things, and will be giving the report this evening.
So for the 2019 board election update, it was uncontested. There's not going to be an election. Les Wadzinski for District 5 and Mary Jane Brown for District 3 will run uncontested and be re-elected in February.
And I would like to add a personal thanks to you both. You guys have been on the board long enough to know that it's not always fun and games, so I appreciate you recommitting. I'll tell Mary Jane that myself again. So thank you.
The South Shore Drive property purchase update, we bought it. We closed on Tuesday the 3rd of December. Adam went to town and signed the title over, and yeah, it's ours now. We're having a party someday. Any questions about that one?
You want to put a tree stand up?
Who knows?
I heard we got the okay on that. That's really happy to put a tree stand up. There you go.
Same thing there, that's for, okay.
2019 dredging update. We have pulled a total of 15,230 cubic yards out of the entire lake this year so far. We're still in the process of digging, so that's still going on. It is a record year. It is the most.
First time in my life on Lake Lemon I've ever seen barge still going in December.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
good
just
to see.
pushing through. 6,211 total cubic yards out of zone 136, which is the current area we are digging right now, and 11,911 yards out of the Chitwood channels that we've dug this year, which
How
puts
much
us
more to
about.
go, Alex, in the channel that you're working on?
I believe we're around the corner. So we're around the corner, or we're just nearing Steve Love's dock in the back.
Okay.
So we're either getting close to turning or already turned.
So, I'm sorry, you
Oh,
go.
so how much more work? Just
Not a
how much
whole
longer?
lot more, a couple weeks,
Okay.
if we are running full blast.
I was surprised you're still digging. How are you offloading without the articulating dump truck?
We rented one.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
okay, good.
We rented one from a company
All
up
right,
in
I need to know that.
Indy.
Thank you, that's good.
Yeah, and it is.
I probably
run
approved it.
superbly. Yeah, I think you did.
You were in on the conversation?
Yes, yes.
So was I.
Okay, good.
Yes. a couple
That's good news, Alec. Congrats, that's good, that's good.
Next up is the equipment operations supervisor job description. I believe you guys all have a copy of that. You just look over it. I don't know if I request a motion or someone else requests a motion.
I'm going to make a comment,
Sure.
and thank you for printing these off for me, Alex. Michael, prior to you getting here, everything is very consistent with all of our full-time employees, with the exception of vacation time. So I would make a motion to approve the condition of employment for Clinton A. Linder, with the exception of vacation time, until the new finance committee has a chance to look over vacation time for all full-time employees. There is a short discrepancy. Go ahead, sir.
One of the things I noticed about this is we have a lot of things that I would typically find in a personnel policy handbook, so.
So I think there's a little bit of inconsistency in those areas, and so everything is consistent in all three of the
Okay.
conditions of employment, with the exception of vacation time. The other would be, Adam has no work schedule, the other two employees have a work schedule. So I spoke with Debbie, and she said, yes, well, that's something we will address in our finance committee.
I'm good with that. The other question that I had with it looked like, unless I misread, that we were looking at exempt for this, but I didn't see supervisory experience, where they're actually specifically managing employees. So just wanted to validate that we've looked closely to ensure that it meets FLSA requirements for exempt status.
And
That's
that
a
would,
good point, because a
Very good
person could have a case,
Yeah,
you know, that.
That's a great point.
because I mean, and it's like only 2 or 3 employees that I think that you have to supervise to be in that category and stuff, but I didn't even see supervision of employees in the list of responsibilities, so.
You making that note?
yes, ma'am, I sure am.
Okay.
And it might be a problem in the off-season where you have less staff. I don't know, can you be exempt for part of the year and not exempt for?
I don't think so.
I think you either are or you are.
I think you're right.
There's probably, and I'm certainly not an HR expert, even though I get to manage an HR director.
Play one on TV.
Yeah, exactly. But it may be because they have at certain times of the year enough employees that it might qualify, but that's something to look further into.
That's a great
And
point.
then-
I mean, otherwise the responsibilities I was comfortable with, but those were the 2 things that.
And do we even have a personnel handbook?
Yes,
Oh,
we
okay.
do, we do.
I was
I
thinking
think
maybe
it's
not.
online, actually.
Yeah, it
What's
is.
that?
It's
on
It's
the
online.
website.
Oh, okay.
You have to look for it.
So is this repetitive from what's in there? Or?
I haven't reviewed it. I
okay.
just had enough time to see the 3 conditions of employment, because I wanted to be consistent with that. And then I think the committee then, according to Debbie, we would go back and look at all 3. And if I liken it to the fire department, I'm ruled by general orders, a union contract, and a merit law. And so most employees have several documents that they're ruled by, if you will. So
And the base salary, is that actually what we would be paying, or is that?
that's been approved in our budget.
Okay, perfect. So what I might suggest is approval with discretion given to the executive committee or whatever appropriate committee to review the.
Finance committee?
Yeah, finance committee to review the FLSA exempt status and the vacation things and make appropriate amendments if necessary.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second.
That's a good one. All right, it's been moved and seconded, as discussed, regarding the job descriptions.
Yeah, Just, I remember the one statement in there, it said minimum of 40 hours a week during the summer.
During
I
the
think.
summer.
And so, if we don't get this FLSA thing squared away, that could be an issue. So, just
Yeah.
to raise the importance of getting that fixed.
Yes, sir.
To add in, the Department of Labor in their guidance documentation also has some clarity statements that if your professional position, even if it's a labor position, has responsibility of supervisory of contractor or subcontractor staff on a daily basis. So he could be assigned to have some observation and supervisory reporting. He wouldn't necessarily administer the contract, but he may have an obligation to coordinate with the subcontractor and prepare a daily report of what the subcontractor did. That also throws him into the realm of supervisory category.
There's some helpful clarifications that can, and without looking a little bit closer, but I think we'd want to make sure that we incorporate that language into it so that if it was ever questioned, we can say, here's what FLSA says. It's clearly in the job description.
Right.
I'd be, if somebody said the minimum, I'd be kind of concerned, like, well, am I gonna be doing 80 or, so that was one statement that kind of hit me a little bit. So I don't know if there's anything we can do about that.
Do you want to?
I know there will be times that the person has to stay later, it just could open it up to, using this person to make them work a whole lot. I mean, I know we wouldn't do that, but just on paper, I'm a little uncomfortable with that.
If you put a 2,088 hour
Yeah.
norm statement in, that would identify that you're working towards providing a normal full-time year, less the allocated vacation sick time, and that would address your concern to where, they're obviously expected to work seasonally, in the summertime more hours, but then they're also expected to work half-time like Alex is doing right now in the winter season.
Yeah.
I average just over 40 in the summer usually.
Yeah.
Between,
So you're making it up
Mhm.
just by your allocation. But if you have some kind of statement in there to where you're working towards a nominal 2,088 normal hour work year, that would balance you off, because then you're not saying that you're expecting them to work 2,400 or 2,600 hours
Mhm.
in the year.
Yeah, and that's identified in the job description that it steps down to 32 and
Yeah.
roughly 4
Yeah,
days a
I'd be
week.
comfortable with that.
May I prevail upon you to restate your motion since we got a little off track
Yeah,
here?
so
Yeah.
motion is to approve the proposed job description, delegating authority to the Finance Committee to review to ensure compliance with FLSA and to make necessary adjustments to the FLSA exempt, non-exempt status and the vacation based on policies. And just as a clarification, with FLSA, that would also give the authority to add any appropriate language or delete any appropriate language to ensure that it meets exempt status if possible.
Thank you. And who was the second? Would you please re-second?
Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Second.
All right. It has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you for restating that. Just want to
My
make sure
pleasure.
we were clear. All right, Strategic Planning Committee. We did meet last week. The minutes are not out yet since we had to kind of squish the meetings together because we're meeting earlier in December because of Christmas or whatever. But Mary Jane is away. She asked me, and I then asked Alex, because he may have another number that I don't, to review the Lake Lemon Enhancement Fund status, which is kind of neat, and then we will save the general update for January of the SPC.
So in the Brown County Community Foundation, there's a total balance of $8,195. In the Monroe County, I do not have it written down. It's in my notes back in the office from the SBC meeting. I believe, and Malcolm might be able to correct me, it was somewhere around 7,600.
Sounds right.
Yeah, they're very close. I got out of there without the second paper as well, so all I had was Brown County.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, we had nothing. So I'm really excited, and Malcolm, your wife, and Ann, and all the crew to be commended on getting this going. So that's exciting. That brings us, believe it or not, to public comment. Yes, sir.
In my normal, I would like to give a report card regarding our Parks and Recreation activities, planning, and execution. Overall, I would give us a C-. When you look at the application, staff has done a great job this year in administering the additional park and recreation use that we ended up having. We were nominally, probably a 20 to 25% increase in beach and park activity.
At least.
And probably a 1/3 increase in our seasonal holiday, 4th of July type use. So that's a great thing. On the bad side, we went in 2017, we did an ADA study. And we came up with a list of deficiencies that we needed to address. And the board did a great thing by budgeting $15,000 to go through and address ADA concerns. However, we did 0 in 2018. We were planning to do the transitional ramp to the pier. We didn't do that, and that's a simple. We could have had Cap go through and, he's a metal fabricator, could have easily built that, and we could have kept the money in-house to our freeholder family. We could have hired Tim Roth to build us the ramp step arrangement to make the office public accessible for where we have our strategic planning committee meeting, and again, kept the money in-house. We could have used the balance of the $1,200 or $1,300 or $12,000 or $13,000 to do the asphalt paving work, which we didn't do in 2018, that we should have. We failed. So, so that's a bad thing. And then lastly, we are moving in misdirection, unfortunately. We prepared and presented to the Strategic Planning Committee a 2-page simple strategic plan of what we should do for Parks and Recreation as a master draft. And we presented that to the Strategic Planning Committee at the November 2018 meeting. And we were tasked, the group, there's 4 of us and I'm on that group. We failed. We did not have a meeting. We did not have a conference call. We did not have any email exchanges in 2019 to finish that work. And as a result, we have not presented information properly vetted through the Strategic Planning Committee, and you, the board, do not have a direction. And we in the Strategic Planning Committee are now talking about replacing the gatehouse, which has needs, but it's not towards the top of the priority list. We are, like we would do without a strategic plan, moving in misdirection. So in my use of constructive criticism, I wish to inform the board of those kinds of things, but I also wish to give you some recommendations. So those would be, number 1, Mr. Blackwell, as treasurer, you should have the ability to go back in the last 10 years worth of budgets, either through the finance committee or go back to staff or utilize the accountants and find all the monies that we have allocated to Parks and Recreation that we haven't spent in the past decade. And we should look towards identifying what that number is, and that'll come into recommendation number 3. Recommendation number 2, Mary Jane is not here, but in her place, if you would remind her to remind the Parks and Recreation task group to do their job. It's only, it would take 1 meeting or some email exchanges and a 30-minute conference call for us to finish this document and roll it into the strategic short-term plan of what we need to do for 2020. And part of it would be hiring a consultant for a nominal $20,000 kind of number to look at all of our parks and recreation and give us advice on what we do. We may want to move the gatehouse before we put a new one someplace. We may want to move the office before we do upgrades to it. We need changes to parking. That is a deficit. We need substantial improvement of the pavilion and substantial improvement of the toilet building. And those things need to come up to the forefront. So, but we don't have to have a plan. Otherwise, we don't know what we're doing. Third part is to you, Pam, to recognize that as board chairman, early in the 2020 budget cycle. We need to recognize what monies we have available and maybe go back to the general fund and do a draw out of that to put it towards park and recreation activities based upon the strategic plan, and get with staff and say, folks, this is a priority. We need to get these things done, especially the ADA accessibility. We have liability and negligence liability if we don't get those things done. And we should be able to get those things done prior to the 2020 park recreation season. Thank you.
Tell me a little bit more about, this is the first I've heard of an additional consultant.
We as
I'm
the
not
group-
against it, I'd like to, that kind of hit me out of nowhere.
We as the group have expertise.
Right.
However, it would be good to get a third-party expert that knows park layouts, functions, those kind of things, and look at as a fresh idea the arrangement of our park and recreational facilities for what our current needs are. We need to eventually create a second boat ramp. How do we make access to wherever that's put? How do we revise the parking so we can get more vehicles with trailers? How do we deal with the overflow of parking? We have a challenge for the couple weekends a year to where we don't have enough space. Do we just mark out lines in the grass so we don't have to have an attendant, so people park reasonably efficient? And where do we put the gatehouse? Do we leave it where it is, or do we move it further up the road? Or do we move the office because we need that? That's in prime parking areas. So there's all those kind of things. Do we replace the toilet building? And what arrangement of toilet building replacement do we do? Help us with all those long-term things so that our task group can then come up with a list of all the tasks, priorities, costs, and then advise the board of what we need to do. And we work on what we need to do in 2020, including this little study that we do, and it's probably a nominal $20,000 kind of number to come up with a plan. We're using consultants for sediment management, we're using consultants for bonding, we're using consultants for financing. Same thing goes for this. Let's get somebody who does this as a living, and then we have a direction and a roadmap of where to go. And
Well, I guess you guys had me fooled because I feel like I have experts around us, but I appreciate that this is something you think is necessary, and we better talk about it.
Well,
When we do this, when we use our own natural resources, we're a city-owned lake, we have city parks and rec.
and I can tell you, city parks and recs use consultants to design their parks.
Okay,
Well, they might build it first, so they use.
okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Fair enough. No, I'm.
But it's not a $50,000 number like we
Right.
need engineering. It might even be as low as a 10 or a 15.
Okay.
It's amazing what you can get for just a little bit amount of money. And we're not a huge park with a lot of demands and all kinds of things. We're a recreational lake, pretty simple. But I think that would be part of an expenditure, what we do. But we need to know what monies we haven't spent and then what monies we can use and come up with a $50,000 or $75,000 budget that includes the ADA stuff, it includes the study, it includes putting 20 grand in the pavilion to put better lighting and fans and new doors and new windows and those kind of things. Maybe even a counter with electrical and a refrigerator, so we can sell it as a destination for people to rent it and make more money in the long term, but we don't have a plan.
Okay.
So, Michael, what's your best guess on one of the, I remember we did discuss this at one point as far as going with a consultant for a master plan.
For a true master plan, I would say probably minimally 25,000, but I do think that we can get some site plans and get a direction for under $25,000.
And do you have ideas about who we might ask?
I know some consultants that I work with that would understand basically how to design a park and also take into consideration the operating expenses and revenue potentials, because I think that's what's critical
huge.
for us, is to understand not only what the design is, but what's the long-term ramifications to the Conservancy District.
Put money back in the budget.
Right.
Because
So-
we get a quarter of our funds from people paying boat launch and
Right.
pavilion rental and using the beach and using the park. We need to increase that. Otherwise, we're gonna pay more taxes to come up with those monies.
Right. No,
So-
I have no objection. I had not thought of it, so I think that's probably a
Refresh my
very
memory
good
though,
point.
now where's the gatehouse on that list? You said it wasn't near the top.
Well, it's in the mid-year plans. We have short-term, mid-term, and long-term plans. It's in the mid-term plans.
Okay, because, there is, some effort going on to where, we did a little research and, at the SBC meeting, Adam did talk about how he was contacting people for bids and stuff.
Right,
So that's,
and I don't disagree that we need to do something, but maybe we do less as an interim measure to buy time to figure out if we're gonna move it, let's move it once. If we're gonna, because we don't wanna deal with, utility reconnections and all those kind of
Right.
things if we're gonna really move it up the road. I don't know, but it's, if we have problems with the toilet, let's fix the toilet and the plumbing. If we have problems with the heating and air conditioning, sorry guys, but let's buy you a box fan and a space heater and a window air conditioner. You're only 100 square foot gatehouse. It's the mechanism it's the means and methods to collect the revenue. It's not what people pay revenue to us for. It's not the gatehouse. So,
first
we need
impressions,
to recognize our priorities.
I do feel it's pretty important. I mean, first impressions when you come in. And
Well,
actually,
when you clean it
you're
up.
the one that motivated me to get moving on this, because
But-
at one of the meetings, you said, where's the gatehouse? Do your job. So
Right.
I did. Now you're saying that it's not that important
My
anymore.
slight push was, as a whole, we needed to move, and I was
Well, you
hoping that
specifically
Adam would
mentioned the
take that as a
gatehouse.
hint, that was the gatehouse and the ADA. If you go back to the July meeting when I made those comments, we needed some improvements, but I was referring to the heating and air conditioning and getting a window unit for those guys was my intent. But it was more to, let's get the darn ADA stuff, because we have a liability to that. Unfortunately, that hint wasn't picked up, so now it's a shove.
Our bathroom, when we redid that, was there any other improvements?
In the
Was
public
that-
toilet room?
Yeah. When-
Quasi, yes. We took
So we
one of
did.
the 2 pairs of stalls and made it into a single stall.
Well, one of the ideas on the gatehouse though too is, we would put it on skids, basically one of those little log cabin things, kind of like the sausage shack.
Right.
Okay, you could move those. In fact, Steve Love had to move his because of the railroad. And so it could be repurposed or something down the road. We're not talking all that, we're talking whatever amount was allocated for that, which I think there was a line item of what, 10 or so for that?
I thought it was 15.
15, okay.
Yeah, we had a cost of like 10, and then
So,
you got the utility
We
hookup.
obviously, though, as a board, felt that was a priority because we made a line item for it.
True, but we have other things also.
Yeah, so I'm
I think
just,
globally, we need to look at it as a picture and then use our resources both in what's in the 2020 budget plus money that we haven't spent, and we have a lot of money in the general fund. We need to start to inject it back into the park and recreation system so it can make more money for us. That's my whole point.
Alex, I think we better make a note, and I'll help you remember to Adam and to you as well. It seems to me we need to go back to the accountants to try to get, we were talking about this today, Mike, figure out what we haven't spent.
Mhm.
I think that should be easy enough for them to do, and we need that number.
Alex can even do this.
Sure,
Really.
but with, however you want to do it, we need that number.
Yes, Alex,
pretty
either way.
quickly. So we know what we're talking about, and then we'll start that budget process in May. Again.
So, Michael, if you have some contacts, I mean, are you comfortable with committing to make those contacts and to see what we can come up with?
Yeah.
Or maybe at least pass those on to Adam and let him make the
Well, one of the
connection?
things, and I haven't had a chance to do it, but was looking at putting together a request for proposals so that we can actually get some proposals from some reputable firms.
Okay, because I think maybe that's part of the problem too. We talk about a lot of this stuff, and then, we're all busy and nobody says anything, and then we're buying property and we're dredging and we got this, that, and the
Yeah, a
other
lot
thing going
going
on.
on.
And
We've done a great job in many things. We dropped the ball on a few, so.
Well, let's pick it back up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like C minus.
We've done a great job on what we had to. We had momentum, and then all of a sudden it stopped. So we just need to
Appreciate the
pick it back up again.
reminder.
And I'm part of the momentum that didn't get it done. I apologize.
We're all in this together, so.
Right.
Any other comments from our public? No. If not, the next item will be our board meeting, January the 23rd, 6 o'clock, right back here. There is an SPC meeting on Friday, January 10th. Have I got that right, Alex? I think that's the next one. We set
Yes.
dates. That was one of the things Mary
Yes.
Jane would have covered. I believe it's Friday, January the 10th at the office, just so you know, and those are public meetings.
3:30.
Pardon me?
At 3:30.
At 3:30, thank
Can I
you.
make a comment about that?
Yep,
And yeah, I know you've listened to him before. That was horrible.
to listen in.
On the
You
SPC.
can't hear a thing.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. Well, I don't hear
Can we?
perfectly anyway. but-
Can we get something better that if I'm at the firehouse that day, for example, but I'd like to listen in. Well, Kathy's not here, but she had to tell you the same thing. It was
You did tell
incredible.
me that.
It was
It's
incredibly
bad.
awful.
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
All I heard was a little, somebody laughing or coughing, and then I heard then another laugh and another cough, and then I could talk to Kathy, but I couldn't,
Couldn't hear what
I
was going on
couldn't.
at the
Yeah,
table.
so if we could find.
just laughing and coughing.
That's what it.
Okay. Well, we do, it is
A lot of
challenging.
drinking going on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to
He's-
interrupt you.
He's saying that the phones have been acting up, and I've had the same problem from my house in Zionsville. If I can't make it down, I can't hear very well what's
Can
going
I
on.
have you
So-
Skype? Can you guys have you Skype?
I wonder if we could.
I
Skype.
know.
We could
Tech-
probably, I could
Tech
probably open a
Wizards.
Skype meeting room.
But
Maybe we could
I
look into
really
that.
want to
Voice.
start participating in these meetings.
Okay.
Because of the momentum that we have, and
Okay.
so if I could hear, then that would, and I really don't even need to make a comment, I just want to listen.
Right. Well, we'll work on that, see if the phones aren't
Thank
gonna
you.
resolve, let's see if we can figure out a better.
Appreciate it, I'm sorry to interrupt
Oh,
you.
not a problem. With that, I would wish you all a very happy holiday with your families and entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Good
Wow.
job, how about that, 40 minutes, under.
39.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, that's good.
37.
Well, thanks, you guys make it easy. 37. Oh. Tell Mary Jane. Thanks for coming. Have a good evening.
Where you guys, where you going?
Second.
Yeah.
She only had one thing on her agenda, one. State my case.
Goes to you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Sure. Should thank my wife, as always.
I will thank her, thank you.
Office lounge, or
Did you sign
the
it?
wings, or
I
the other
did.
place
I
you
was
like, or?
thinking on part of
Oh, for the vote?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'll be
Is-
ready
Is the
and-
porthole closed?
No, they're open, oh, did you want to go, we can go to the port?
I didn't know if they were on winter out. No, you're tired of
Hope I didn't
the
put you on
port.
the spot.
No, you're good.
And if there's
Oh,
any
thanks, Al.
help, I'm just